Hello everyone. Today I will talk about writing the method chapter for a PhD study that is using interpretative phenomenological approach. Writing a method chapter in a PhD thesis is more demanding than writing a method section in a journal article. The scholars writing the method chapter in qualitative research should go in details, providing almost all the information that the reader, whether from academia or a common reader, may think about. So let us have a look at general outline of a method chapter in an IPA study. Please note that in this presentation, I may use IPA instead the full form Interpretative Phenomenological Analysis or Interpretative Phenomenological Study. Okay, a general outline for a method chapter in an IPA study should include introduction, that is, how you are organizing this chapter, then research design, which research design you will use and why. And then IPA, you have to share your understanding of IPA or IPA research in your thesis. Then rationale and limitation of IPA. You should also describe or rationalize the selection of IPA in this study and what may be the limitations. And then procedure. What are you going to do or how are you going to do? That is about data collection, that is about process of analysis, ethical considerations, validation strategies, and overall quality of your research findings. Now, let us see it one by one. Okay, introduction section of the chapter should include, so to say, a short description of how you are organizing this chapter. It means that the reader reading the method chapter should know immediately in the beginning that what information the reader can get from this chapter and how it is organized. For example, in one PhD thesis, a scholar introduces the method chapter as the aim of this chapter is to address a number of methodological principles. I will start by introducing the research design, including the underpinning epistemological stance and ontological position. I will then introduce the chosen methodology with a number of discussions regarding the theoretical underpinnings, the rationale for selecting this approach, the limitation associated with this approach, and the consideration of other approaches. The exact procedures that were followed will then be outlined and discussed in relation to ethical considerations and quality in qualitative research. So, after reading this introduction, if you focus the text in bold here, the reader already knows that the chapter will provide useful information of the theoretical knowledge of the selected research design and the rationale of the research approach and the complete procedure, including data collection, process of analysis, and validation strategies. Now, in next section of the chapter, after introduction section, you are to write about research design. In this section, you should tell about the purpose of the research, what type of investigation it involves, which research design you will use and why, and what is your epistemological position to use this approach. Well, this is up to you according to your research topic and research questions that which approach you will use and how you will justify it in this chapter. I can talk a little bit about the epistemological position that you should describe with reference to your research purpose and also providing references from the literature that you have read for this research approach. For example, maybe you are interested in realist perspective where you assume knowledge as pre-existed to be discovered. Or maybe you are following a constructionist approach where you see knowledge as socially constructed and you need to unearth the meanings and the meaning making process. And there are several other ways to understand the knowledge that you want to research. Now, it is your job to interconnect your research approach and your epistemological position in this section. I hope if you will read some chapter in a thesis, you will come to know about this section as well. Now, the next section is, and very important section, because now you have to provide theoretical knowledge about IPA. While your research study is an interpretative phenomenological study, you should explain phenomenology and its emergence into interpretive phenomenology. Then you should discuss IPA and provide its theoretical foundation so that the reader can understand why your research topic and questions are relevant in this approach. For example, you should write about hermeneutics, you should write about ideography, and you should tell how it can be used to understand the lived experiences and individual narratives. You can you can also watch two of my video lectures and one interview with a researcher to understand more about phenomenology and IPA. You can watch these videos in the suggested videos here, and I will also post the links in the description. Okay, now we are in the section where you will provide rationale of using IPA and any limitations attached to it. For example, if your study is related to healthcare, you can write about IPA, that how it can be helpful to understand the experiences related to healthcare practices. You can also connect the value of IP in your study with your research questions and also your epistemological position. Overall, the reader should be able to buy your arguments positively that this was the appropriate approach to research these questions. But now it is also important that you highlight the limitations. You are definitely not saying that this is the best and ideal approach without any limitations. So you can talk about challenges related to using this approach. For example, it is not easy to get in-depth information about the personal lived experiences. And when we as a researcher interpret, we have to rely on the language and it has its limitations. So you have to be reflexive in your write up. And of course, after conducting the study, you may have more input in this section because there might be other challenges that you faced and there may be other strategies that you used. So you can report those strategies and challenges in this section as well. Overall, this section should help the reader to understand and agree that you are using this approach, and also the reader should come to know that you have awareness about the limitations of the approach. Now, the procedure. Okay, in procedure section, you are going to tell about how to do it. So here you will talk about sampling, data collection method, process of data analysis, validation strategies, and ethical considerations. If you will conduct a pilot study, then you should also write about this in the procedure section. About sampling, you should write about the inclusion and exclusion criteria very carefully, and how do you assess the participants, and then how will you get the informed consent or anything relevant. For example, if there are gatekeepers involved who help you to reach the participant, you should write about them as well in detail. In the section or the subsection, the data collection method, you should write details about what data collection method or methods you are using. If you are using more than one method, please do write about that why you are using more than one method, how you are going to connect these two methods in the findings. Okay, now what will be the data collection method? It also means that what kind of data collection instrument you are using and how will you prepare them and how will you validate them to be used. For example, if you are going to use interview method, then maybe you have an interview guide and that is an instrument. So you have to tell them that what kind of validation techniques or strategies you are going to use before using this interview guide for data collection. In the process of analysis, that is very important part in the section, You must write in details the step-by-step procedure of how you will record the data, how you will prepare it to get analysis, to do analysis, and how it will be analyzed. It is always a good practice to use some literature to refer to your process of analysis, because then it means that you have enough knowledge about different types of process of analysis in IPA studies, and then you are telling about your process of analysis with reference to those studies. It is also important that your process of analysis include the steps to validate the findings that actually enhance the quality of data analysis. Again, I am putting some videos in description that may be helpful to learn more about it. So you can look in the description as well, and also the suggested videos. In the end, you should write about ethical considerations. And well, this is an IPA study. So please note that your ethical considerations should be considerately enough to report complexity and sensitivity of human lived experiences, and of course associated vulnerabilities of the participants and your measures to deal with it. In IPA study, ethical considerations are much more than just writing about informed consent. Well, this is it. So then your method chapter is complete. I hope this presentation will help you to write a good method chapter in your PhD thesis that is related to IPA study. Thank you, and subscribe to my channel for more videos.